Hello, Faelonians. I'm Lore Master Matt,
And I'm Faelon Jon.
and welcome to the Bellringers. From time to time, we're going to record a series on a special topic, and you'll find that in these sessions, the Bellringers. The Lord Mayor of Teradim, Varain Qualtara, employs many young people, generally waifs and strays like Jon and I, to roam throughout Teradim, ringing a bell and shouting proclamations from the Lord Mayor or the news of the day. Besides a daily stipend, Bellringers are often stopped on the streets by the affluent of Teradim and asked to give the news to them personally, for which they receive a copper or two for their time. We are your Bellringers, and today the news is a starting point for lore and your journey through the world of Faelon. Jon, today we're going to be talking about the world of Faelon. Great, big, huge topic. You and I talked about this ahead of time. We needed to split it in two because I went
At least in
way
two.
big, right? Instead of, a little bit smaller. So the world of Faelon, just give us like a quick feel for the world. What is the general feeling in this world? Some of these worlds that we look at are grim dark. Some of them are, cyberpunk, whatever. What is the world of Faelon?
I think that if a literary agent was asking me for the elevator pitch, you'd have to say high fantasy, right? Medieval technology, magic is present, spells are not uncommon.
Right.
People go on epic quests and adventure, and it's not as gritty or dark as some stories, the
Sure.
narrative. There's certainly gritty things happening.
Absolutely. There's dark corners of Faelon.
Yeah. And we've talked about it before. The theme is often man is monster enough.
Gosh,
Right.
I'm so glad that you said that because, one of the things I wanted to bring into all of this is the major themes that we talk about as a
Right.
company, and man is monster enough is my favorite.
Right.
I just
So,
love that.
Yeah, there are, if you want to be in a nexus of the 50,000 planes of the multiverse, if you want to, which is not, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's not us.
It's-
We decided a while ago to take a different road.
Yep.
Our own road, good or bad, our own road. And it wasn't that. Okay. Now I felt as a designer, this is an aside, I don't think we've talked about that. We might have. I felt at the time, because I was playing all the role-playing games, still do, right? And I was in all these role-playing worlds, and I felt that there was this arms race to get more weird and more extravagant, and more away from the story of just people on the street to these really bizarre things because they felt they had to keep upping the game.
Right.
And whether it's true or not, it felt that way.
Sure.
Perception is reality, So if I wanted to have a giant floating monster with a big eye and a bunch of other eyes sticking out of it, let's just say I wanted that monster. Okay.
Let's just say
I
that.
wanted to be dramatic and when the thing showed up, I wanted to just have my players creeped out and fear for their lives. I couldn't have them be around every street corner. Right. So the more common the bizarre became, the harder it is to put real danger and threat and tension into a scene.
Right.
I felt.
I would have to agree.
If you start down here at the street where, your nemesis is an arms merchant, who's hitting up your street for a protection racket or whatever, and you can move up and you have more space to go to get to the bizarre,
Right.
and it's more impactful. I felt. Okay. So that's where the original theme of the world came from. However, as we're going to talk about, there are bigger, more dangerous, supernaturally things going on, and will be going on, right?
It's funny, we talk about the street level, and the next thing up is the creator of Faelon.
Right, well,
It's
right.
creation, right?
But the world itself, it is a world. It is a material plane,
Sure,
a normal place, a planet in the universe we know.
Right.
Okay. It's spherical. The great cat of Faelon can't push all the people off the edge,
Giant elephant.
Not judging.
Absolutely.
It's not riding a turtle's back. It's a planet, and here's a little bit of history. I told my Traveler players in the late 1970s that Faelon was in the galaxy they were in.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
so there was constant search for it while they were doing whatever else.
Right.
There was also scans for, we want to land on Faelon. Hey, we're here to save you and shoot our lasers at you. So it's out there. It's a world. And so what you see in the map, though, is one continent plus a piece of another.
Right.
So we have room to grow. And we have ideas about and notes, like you were saying in the last episode,
Yeah.
about all the other places that are on Faelon. Right now, we're adventuring on the northern continent and a little bit on the southern continent. And we're going to expand that.
Right.
Right. But it is a world.
It is a world. It is a world. And I really love the grittiness of the street. Right, you're on that level of the street, and I love being able to tell stories because it includes real human drama.
Right,
and I really like that aspect of Faelon.
And if I had to, I was thinking the other day about this. If I had to pick a type of world we are most like, it is the Belgariad. You know this set of stories?
I know.
Yeah, it's a fantasy series, high fantasy series. Tolkien is more mythological, right?
Right.
You have, and the language is a little more flowery. The people are all heroic. The good guys are all heroic. The bad guys are all supervillains.
Right.
We're not that way, right? There's, gray all over the place.
It's all gray.
But what was interesting in, the Belgariad is even the good guys in their party had petty arguments. They slept with each other. They went to the bathroom. They did all these normal things. Right. We're more like that.
Yes.
Yes. So it's more relatable. It's not as dark as some where every street corner is a group of thugs or a disease or a giant rat. It's not as bad as that. But it is. It's relatable.
Yeah.
Is what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
You can see yourself in this. Easily see yourself in this.
I think that's where it really makes a connection with me.
Yeah.
So tell me about the creation of Faelon.
Well, when I originally, as we talked about before, when I originally wrote Faelon, I was a high school kid. This is when it all began. And so, what did I know? Nothing. I'm doing my best. I didn't want to have it be about a dark lord. This mysterious, shadowy figure, all powerful, wanted to just descend darkness on. We talked about this before. Why darkness? Why don't I have a villa on the ocean? Servants and good liquor. Instead of this, dust and ash. When Sean Bean describes Mordor and Lord of the Rings, that's what their goal is.
Yeah, right.
Turn it all into that. Yeah. Why? If you're this all-powerful being, So I wasn't into that. So it wasn't going to be the main villain, at least for the foreseeable future. Was not going to be. It was going to be someone, and we talked about this too. Villains, right? When we talked about the villains episode, they're often they think they're right.
Yes,
because
the best villains do.
Right, they think that what they're doing is right. And so I had the story of the Bright Sword War, which we're going to start telling. The main villain, the main antagonist, is going to portray themselves as I'm doing the right thing here, right? Right, like a lot of the villains we like, or like to hate. But I needed a creation story. It's a fantasy world. It needs a mythos.
It has a mythos.
It needs to stop running in behind the religions of the world.
Yes,
right,
because religion is important.
Yes, to Faelon. Yes, absolutely. Either to love it or to hate it, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. It needs to be there, and so. And I was a child of the Silmarillion.
Sure,
sure. That's straight up. That's where, my favorite, fictional. Well, they could all be fictional. I personally, as a Christian, I think one of them isn't, but we'll get to that later. But it was a fictional, mythological, fantasy creation story. Like everything else, familiar but unique.
Right.
So I didn't deviate too far from other creation stories. There are. Entities called the Gaul, which are actually aspects of a single supernatural force that the people of Faelon call the Creator.
Right.
We're going to reveal more about that as we go along.
Looking forward to that.
Right. But the Creator divides himself into these 9 aspects to make them more understandable to their subjects, to the people of Faelon.
Right.
Right. And 3 of them decide they don't want to play by the rules. Okay. And there was arguments and tension between those three and the other six, and a God's war is fought. What it's. Go ahead.
I just to say,
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that war.
Well, we don't want to. It's in my mind, the vision that we've had is that we're going to tell the story of the Bright Sword War and the Jaguar Crusade, which happened simultaneously, and sometime in the future, these subjects that we're talking about today are going to come back into Faelon.
Yeah. So,
right?
and just as an aside, on the Discord this week, we had a question about something related to those very things that's going to be coming out in the future.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be it's in the future.
Yep.
Maybe the farther.
But there are some things that are known that these three rebel guys aspects were imprisoned. They were set aside from being able to influence Faelon directly.
Right.
And that is weakening.
Yeah.
That's all we're going to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And which three aspects were those?
Well, of the Gaul, of the Paz, right, of the Gaul, that is the monolith, the cage, and the shroud.
Okay. And what do they represent?
Domination, greed, and death. Right.
So negative aspects for sure.
Yeah. The scepter, the chain, and the hood.
Yeah.
Right, of the paths.
Yeah.
And so there are really 9 paths, not 6. Okay. Something as people are going to see more and more of as time goes on.
Right. As we start to kind of delve
because most of the religious world are kind of shoving those other 3 aside.
Right.
But really, it's hard to do things in life without them.
Isn't? But that's the interesting part of the
tension,
story, right?
That's the tension of the story. Yeah. So you can't live without. It's like a person without any. How many stories have been told with a person, has their dark side removed or accentuated? We see that you really can't live without at least some of it. I know I can.
No.
So,
right. But that's what gives us, like you said, our tension and our stories, and why we say man is monster enough.
Right.
Because there are those sides to every person.
And where is that side in Aragorn?
Right. Right.
As much of a lovable, awesome character that he is, and somebody I've followed from a very young age.
Yeah.
Right. Where is his internal tension? His internal tension is about the ranger bit. Where's Legolas's internal tension?
Right.
It's made up for the movies. I don't like my father that much. But in the story, where's the elf? We just, we do our thing, right? So it's a myth.
Yeah.
Right. It's what it represents, basically.
Yes.
We're not a mythological telling. We're a street view.
Right.
And so our people are going to have components that are challenging, troubling, whatever, but are necessary to be a full personality
and good storytelling.
Yeah. So that's on the meta scale. The
Right.
Gaul represents on the meta scale, and the different cultures of Faelon interpret those 9 differently.
Right.
Right. Some worship them directly, just the way the creator intended, and some have taken it. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 steps down. It's almost unrecognizable.
Right.
Brandon Burns, I'm looking at you. my good friend. That religion's a few steps down from the core. But that's the way it would be, right? You'd have
absolutely.
It's like the tell somebody at the end of a chain a rumor, find out what they whisper it down the chain, and it turns out to be something entirely different at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just nature.
Right.
Nature of telling.
Right.
So yes.
So we have this war, and the 3 Gaul, the negative aspects,
The
Gehinnon, right, are imprisoned. But something else happens there to magic in Faelon. So let's say
before we get to that, imprisoned is their story.
Right.
The other 6 Gaul would say set aside.
Sideline.
You don't get direct access.
Right.
And then but the canon are not viewing it that way. So whatever.
Not to fly my colors.
Right,
but...
yeah. So yes, not to show your true allegiance. We're gonna need Gaul shirts. That's all we do it.
We so are.
We do that, we're gonna have to all take
that is going in the notes right now.
Yeah. We're gonna ask all the members of DGS to sign up for 1 Gaul shirt and 1 Gaul shirt only, so we find out our true nature is John has a scepter on his, right?
Not so much.
1 designer to rule the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
So magic. How does this?
So in the world of Faelon, core magic is a power provided to you as in a role as a conduit of the gods. Okay, you are serving as a transmission means.
Right.
So it's divine power, both kinds. Even energy magic is essentially divine power,
Sure.
right, of a different nature. And so that set of rules doesn't necessarily apply to places that aren't Faelon.
Right.
Okay. And originally, those were one thing. Right. There wasn't a separation of spirit magic and energy magic. And the amount of power some of the followers the amount of power some of the followers of the Gaul and the Gods were using, because it was playing out on Faelon as well.
Right.
And their intermediate angel devil equivalents.
Right.
Something that will happen sometime. The avatars, the demigods, whatever, the kind of beings that were in between.
Right.
Really unbelievable powers, just incredible powers that were devastating in their use. And the Gaul remaining Gaul, the six, decide to sunder those two to make it harder for mortals to play on that level, And down at the street level, for most cultures, the combination of the two became sorcery, became something that was an abomination.
Taboo.
Taboo, counter to religious practice and worship. And some of the cultures like, let's go. So, but you couldn't
do that.
You couldn't normally have it because the Gaul wouldn't give it to you.
Right.
Right. So if I'm a worshiper of a particular Gaul, I'm going to be able to be imbued. I'm attuned or chosen. Right. I'm getting this power that flows through me as a
gift.
A gift, basically, yes, a gift from the gods. I can't get the two combined because they won't give it to me. So where do I get it?
Oh, okay. That's the question.
Yeah. And there's two basic places that you can get it, right? You can make a pact with a demon, because demons aren't from Faelon. The rules don't apply the same way they apply in Faelon. Or Kennen don't have those rules, right? That's a Gaul rule. That's not our rule.
That's right.
And we need a name for the non-Kennen Gaul. I'm not sure we've ever kind of identified them, because the Kennen would have a name for them. Well, we're not part of them.
It's probably not one that we want to repeat.
Will not be spoken here.
But you're right, we do.
Yeah, we need a name for that. So when we start working on this, the storytelling that involves these entities to a greater degree post the Brightsword War,
right?
Then we're going to want some more of that. Right now it's in the origin of all these religions. This is where all this comes from.
Right.
And the reason why it's out there as a story for the players to enjoy is because they're tracing it back to its source.
Yeah.
As far as I'm going to have a narrative that relies on these elements in order to tell a broader story that includes actions taking place today in our world,
right?
A whole bunch more is going to become known to the players who isn't known.
Right.
Right. So.
Okay, so next time on the Bellringers, we're going to go a little further into the world of Faelon. We're going to talk about the physical nature of Faelon, the lands that we know, and the races and the people that live there.
Right.
But for now, thank you for tuning into the Bellringers. We hope you enjoy this little segment, and we hope that it helps you get into the world of Faelon and just revel in it. That is our main goal here, is to help you get an introduction to this world. For more information, for now, you can go to World Anvil, the World of Faelon World Anvil, for more detailed information. But until then, thank you very much for tuning in.
And until next time, he's
Lore Master Matt.
I'm Faelon Jon, Sil Sakava.